A French government minister is warning the country could be on the verge of a water crisis as a result of an ongoing winter drought.
This should be prime pasture, but instead the worst drought in 50 years in New South Wales.
Water reserves across France are drying up, and it's the middle of winter.
We're going to end up with a desert.
The long-range forecast predicts another 3 months without any significant rain.
Earth, covered by 70% of water, yet only 2.5% of it is fresh water. When our planet was formed, there was the same amount of water than today, and yet we don't have enough of it anymore. At the heart of the world's human and social challenges, the current world shortage presents us with a fait accompli. A rapid chain of events over the last few years has led us to ask the question: will our children have enough water to live on in 2050, just 27 years from now? Scientists estimate that we could reach 9.7 billion people by 2050. The world of tomorrow is going to be warmer and the competition for water tougher. For the past 10 years, reports have alarmed us about the current water situation in the world, but it doesn't seem to scare so many people. Almost 2/3 of the world's population, 4 billion people, experience severe water scarcity for at least 1 month each year. All over the world, the consequences of water scarcity are already being felt with catastrophic consequences. According to WHO, 700 people are at risk of being displaced as a result of drought by 2030. And the problem is that always more and more people from countries that we would not have expected to see in the past are now also at risk. In February 2023, France broke a record by going 32 consecutive days without rain. The country experienced its driest winter in more than 60 years. The import of water from other parts of France contributes even more to global warming. Similar situations can be found in whole Central Europe. But that's not all. The water available is not always clean and usable. In many African countries, between 30 and 60% of the population have no access to drinking water. It is often contaminated or polluted, making it extremely dangerous to drink. It is clear for all that the world of 2050 is not going to be the same. Let's have a look at what could possibly be happening. Rain, first long-term consequence that scientists are able to predict. With higher temperatures comes greater evaporation and surface drying, contributing to the intensity and duration of drought. The areas impacted today will experience a gradual worsening of the drought phenomenon. They will be longer and even drier. However, as the air warms, its water holding capacity increases. According to the Clausius-Clapeyron equation, the air can generally hold around 7% more moisture for every degree of temperature rise. But this increased moisture will not fall evenly across the planet, as many meteorological factors are responsible for rainfall. According to the various scientific models forecasting up to the end of this century, warming is expected to result in dry areas becoming drier and wet areas becoming wetter. Models also generally agree that precipitation, when it does occur, will become more intense nearly everywhere. Almost the entire world is expected to see an increase in extreme precipitation as it warms. The world will have a 16 to 24% increase in heavy precipitation intensity within the next 70 years. This will intensify episodes of flooding and landslides while damaging the fragile infrastructures of countries already affected by water insecurity. Fact is, water-related hazards have increased in frequency for the past 20 years. Since 2000, flood-related disasters have increased by 134%, Epidemics are likely to increase as a result of the lack of hygiene, entailing major human costs. The term climate refugee is not yet very common, but could become just as standard as political refugee. As rainfall patterns around the world become more uneven, access to water will become critical. Social inequalities will combine with economic inequalities. The resource will have to be bought and transported. Increased demand and transport to the areas where it is needed the most could push up the general price of water in the world. And as a premonition to what may follow, water has recently become a stock market commodity. In 2020, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange started the first ever futures market for water, meaning farmers, as well as investors, municipalities and hedge funds, can buy a legal agreement known as a future contract that locks in a predetermined price for water that will be used in the future. If an event like drought drives up the price, the contract seller must make up the difference, and vice versa if it drops. In other words, they can bet on water just like on any other commodity. Less than 10% of water consumption is for domestic needs, the rest being used by agriculture and industry. It is difficult to predict the extent to which these sectors could be affected by a rise in water prices, but it is likely to have an impact on the prices of finished goods and basic food products. The cost of growing fruit and vegetables, as an example, is set to rise, and the price of wheat, maize and rice could explode between now and 2050. It is also possible that meat could become an even more luxurious product than it already is, given that it takes 15,000 liters of water to produce 1 kilogram of meat. The fashion and electronics industry might also be deeply impacted. As water gets more expensive, it could increase the difficulty in accessing clothing, phones and more, leading to even more social inequalities. To date, water-related conflicts have not given rise to large-scale fighting, but the tensions seem to be increasing with time and the growing shortage of water. In some parts of the world, we could really call it a powder keg, because every country seems to be ready to take up arms to defend its interests. Many conflicts in the Middle East are linked to the shared use of rivers. Historical conflicts, such as that between Turkey, Iran and Syria over the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, can be cited as examples, as can the conflict between Israel and its Arab neighbors over the Jordan River. Very recently, a clash between Tajik and Kyrgyz forces over a water supply facility caused the deaths of more than 50 people. The war in Ukraine has also shown that water can be used as a weapon to weaken adversaries. Following Russia's annexation of Crimea, Ukraine blocked the North Crimean Canal, which provided 85% of Crimea's drinking water, resulting in a serious headache for Russian officials and also massive consequences for the local population. Fortunately, everything is not lost. And you know, I do the drama and so on, but this is good. Humanity is capable of great reflection and innovation, and that's what we're going to see now. Among all the solutions that exist, I would like to mention 5 of them. It is all the more important that the water we do have is usable and guarantees a decent standard of living. As we said earlier, many countries are not yet in the position of having access to clean water. The United Nations Sustainable Goal number 6 is clear: water for all by 2030. And to achieve that goal, there are still a lot of resources to be invested. Firstly, in infrastructure. It is at governmental and international level that common policies can be developed in order to release the necessary funds. Structures such as the European Investment Bank finance and find funding for development projects in the water sector in partnership with numerous NGOs. The African Development Bank is another example of an international coalition working closely with African governments to accelerate development projects. Desalination involves converting seawater into fresh water, safe for drinking and using. Water-scarce regions are therefore particularly reliant on the technology. Desalination provides the United Arab Emirates with 42% of its water needs. Because of the minimal cost of pumping, desalination is most economical in large coastal locations. However, our changing climate is contributing to increasing water shortages in typically mild regions, necessitating the expansion of desalination plants further inland and from brackish water. China, the US and South America are all expanding their desalination capacity. The biggest downside is that desalination requires huge amounts of energy. It's important that these energy sources be sustainable so they don't contribute to more water scarcity. Producing 1 liter of drinking water also creates 1.6 liters of brine, a highly saline waste product that can damage the environment. Brine deposits on the seafloor can lead to the destruction of sea ecosystems, while brine discharge reduces the oxygen content of seawater, endangering the marine ecosystem and biodiversity. The safe disposal of brine is expensive, and its prohibitive cost of treatment remains a significant barrier to the wider application of desalination. Industrial agriculture is one of the biggest drains on water resources, and irrigation consumes more than 2/3 of the world's fresh water. Switching from flood irrigation systems to drip irrigation systems could help the agricultural sector save up to 80% of water. The goal of drip irrigation is to place water directly into the root zone and minimize evaporation. One of the biggest drawbacks of such a technology is linked to costs, as the initial expenditure is often higher than for other systems, and it costs also more to maintain over time. Yet, the savings due to less water consumption will in most cases exceed the overall costs. Since 1948, over 300 international water agreements have been signed. However, with the exception of some rivers in Europe, none of the major basins in the world are governed by an agreement encompassing all states with interests. About 2/3 of the world's 263 international river basins plus transboundary aquifer systems lack any type of cooperative management framework. The treaties that do exist cover a range of issues including flood control, hydroelectricity, industrial uses, navigation, pollution and fishing. Only a few are estimated to address water allocation. It is necessary to reduce the risk of political conflicts and guarantee fair access to all. Of course, it's not a fairy tale and it will not happen from now to tomorrow. But governments and international organizations have to push for more treaties to be signed, binding countries with little regard for the balance of water distribution. Scientists also have looked at the potential benefits of water pricing. 3 new OECD studies say that putting the right price on water will encourage people to waste less, pollute less, and invest more in water infrastructure. It should better reflect the actual consumption and treatment costs, including water abstraction and supply, as well as treatment of wastewater to avoid pollution. Tariffs for water and wastewater services vary significantly across OECD countries, as in many countries it costs more to get rid of wastewater than to bring in drinking water. The challenge of organizing water pricing locally is a complex one, given the inequality of resources across the globe. Added to this is the ethical issue of charging for a resource that is declared to be universal. Do the people want to have wars over water? Not so much. Can it be a reason for conflict? This definitely. Will it be tenser in the future? Assuredly. I don't think either that we are going to accept to pay more for water in the future. As our relation with water remains pretty distant today, we will face unavoidable consequences. The people of 2050 will have another relationship to water. And this is also a chance. As our technological abilities improve, we are now able to send people into space, just for fun. We are able to create vaccines within months. What are we capable of doing, creating and improving to ensure water for all? I hope that you have enjoyed this video. please feel free to share it with your families, with your friends, your dog, your cat, in order to raise awareness on this issue, which is very important and which is gonna be even more important tomorrow. Thank you for watching and see you next time.